Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cooking Live with me, Jeni Wheeler. I'm so happy that you're here tonight. Who else is hot? I literally was like, can I get away with cooking in a bathing suit tonight? This is crazy. It is so hot in our kitchen. I hope it is less hot in your kitchen, but I'm super excited for you to join us this evening. Thank you enormously to the Hyannis Public Library. Ravi is kicking us off tonight instead of Tony because she's out of practice. So we're super grateful for them, and we are so excited that you have decided to join us. I am going to introduce you to a very simple but super flavorful dish. It doesn't require a ton of cooking, just a little bit. So it's kind of perfect for a night like tonight where you're like, I really don't want to heat my whole kitchen up for very long. So we are going to do a lemon zested ricotta pappardelle. And then we're going to do a side arugula salad that also has lemon juice, very, very basic, super vibrant, perfect for summer. It's this tasty, tasty dish. And it's kind of light and bright and just suits this time of year. Now, granted, I'm not sure that I would cook pasta on a 100-degree day. However, this is what we do. So we're going to go with it. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to have you with us. So let's get cooking. All right, in front of me are the ingredients we're going to be using. I tend to throw in one or two things that I might not have mentioned just as options. Don't need to do it, don't have to. But I kind of like, at Family Table Collaborative, we tend to play with all the things that come into us. So sometimes stuff comes in and it triggers a thought for me that I would not have actually thought about beforehand. But now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look, we could do this. So I like to pass that information on to you because if we're getting it here, it means you also can get it in the stores right now. So, which is kind of a fun thing. We focus on local, we focus on fresh. Doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to take a long time, but fresh food, good food, are better for us. So let's get cooking. We're going to start with the pasta dish. Truly, the side salad is so simple. You're going to be like, how have I ever done this before? It's like a couple of ingredients and so tasty during the summer. So I'm just moving everything off so I can get started right in front of you. And I don't know about you, but today was one of those days where it is hot. The day is long. So I poured myself a glass of wine right before we started. So if you'd like to, feel free to join. I poured a Sauvignon Blanc, which I feel like is perfect for this dish. Not gonna lie, my favorite white is a Sancerre. So I often go with that, but a Sauv Blanc is perfect to accompany this dish. If you would like to join in. All right, you have a clean workspace. Let's get started. This dish does not take a long time. And why does it not take a long time? Because fresh pasta is the best pasta next to making your own pasta. So although I love making pasta, it's so fun. It does take a decent amount of time. It's not hard. And I'm hoping to actually run a class where we have people here that we can also record not live, but to show you it's really not hard. It is a little bit time consuming, but not hard. But tonight I went with a fresh pappardelle pasta. I bought this at Market Basket. Pappardelle is my favorite pasta. Everyone thinks it's weird when I'm like, oh, I have a favorite pasta. I have a favorite kale. I have a favorite lot of things that other people find to be odd. Pappardelle, though, is my very favorite pasta. Thick cut, kind of looks like ribbons. For me, it's just the perfect pasta. So this is Tuscan Kitchen. Again, bought it at Market Basket. It's divine. So that's going to save us time. So the very first thing we're going to do is going to turn our water on. I have water all set. You want enough to make sure it's going to totally cover your pasta. I have not boiled it yet, so we're going to have to wait for it to boil. So I have some water on, waiting for it to boil. I'm going to throw in a tiny bit of kosher salt. And then we're also going to put in a little bit of oil. And then we're going to wait for that to come to a boil. I had mentioned that we were going to use frozen peas because, to be honest, I had been having a hard time finding fresh peas. However, I did. So I have fresh peas for today. They take no time. I'm going to set up a second pot for those to boil. We're only going to boil them for about 2 minutes. So as you can see, I don't have a ton of water. I just put a little bit of water in. I'm going to get that set to go. I am not going to put anything in that water. I'm just going to leave it plain. So we'll get that up to speed. What do you do in the meantime? There isn't a ton of prep for this dish, but I'm going to introduce you to something that if you haven't seen this before, it's high time you know what it is. I'm going to put out a cutting board. This is not an ingredient that I had on my radar, to be honest, until Jim, who a lot of you know has produced a ton of my cooking shows and is on today, working with Mary behind the scenes. Big shout out to all the people behind the scenes that make these things happen. But Jim gave Mary and I, who happened to be at a conference in Foxborough yesterday, he met up with us and gave us a ton of garlic scapes. That's what these are. Garlic scapes, just in case you don't know what they are the tops of garlic. Now, not all garlic does this. Some garlic comes up straight and some creates scapes. I actually am not sure what the difference is, to be fair, but I will research it. So Jim gave us all these scapes. Now, if you're like me, you might not be sure what scapes are. I was only introduced to scapes a couple of years ago, and I have to tell you, my world changed forever for the good when I was introduced to garlic scapes. So garlic scapes, like I said, are the tops of the garlic, and they do this twisty thing. And when you cook them, they taste like an exceptionally soft, buttery garlic. To the point where I would tell you, I'm not a fan of garlic and eggs. I feel like it's overpowering. My dad loves garlic and eggs. I do not. I think it's too much, too much. I'm the same way with broccoli. I love broccoli by itself. I don't like broccoli in a lot of things because I feel like it overpowers it. For me, it's too strong a flavor. Well, garlic is that way sometimes, and I love garlic. However, garlic scapes, when you cook them, taste like a very soft, buttery garlic all unto themselves. That is a game changer. So I'm going to include some of these in the dish for tonight. So we're going to cut some of these up. I'm going to cut off these ends that are a little bit dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fine dice a little bit of this. Now, depending on how many people you're cooking for, you do not need a ton. I grabbed a couple, so we're going to cut them up. So I'm literally going to go right across them, and I'm going to cross cut them multiple times, opposite directions, until we get them fine enough that I'm happy with. Now, again, you want to make sure your blade is never near your fingers. I'm kind of recombining them over and over again. So I'm cutting multiple directions. And I'm telling you, when you start cutting them, you're like, oh, the garlic scent is divine. So I'm going to cut a little bit of these up because I'm going to have you, I had said in the recipe, we need a couple of cloves of garlic. I'm going to use these instead of my 2 cloves of regular garlic. You can go ahead and use your fresh garlic and fine dice it. And we're going to get that sauteing in a pan. So just like this, if you have fresh garlic, we always have grated garlic in my kitchen. This is fresh garlic, but that we grated. It was what I was going to use until Jim gave us these. I'm going to sub out this. Okay, So all we're doing is we're kind of getting the sauce ready for when the pappardelle is complete. We're just going to drop it in the sauce. And it's very, very simple. If you have a dairy allergy, you're going to use olive oil. If you don't have a dairy allergy, you're going to use butter. One of my very favorite butters is Kerrygold. Irish butter, you really can't go wrong. It tastes so good. If you ask if there's a difference in butters, you ask me, there is. There isn't a right or a wrong. Kerrygold just has a richness that not a lot of other ones. It's very clean, very pure. I love it. So I'm gonna take about, it's probably about 2 teaspoons. I'm just gonna get that going. I'm gonna get that going in a saute pan, as you can see. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna put a couple of things in this just to get a sauce ready. And by sauce, I mean very, very light. We're just gonna get that ready for when the pasta is done. So I'm gonna put my garlic sticks in that butter. Just get that going. As you can see, all I have, butter, a little bit of garlic sticks. For you, if you don't have garlic sticks, because I did not advertise those, I did not know I was going to have them. We're just going to throw in butter or olive oil with a little bit of freshly chopped garlic, very fine. All right, so let's get the next thing ready. That again isn't going to take us any time. It's the fresh whole milk ricotta. Once again, I feel like I'm going to introduce you to things that might actually change your world tonight. If you have not had lemon zested ricotta, get ready because it is so good and it's so light and so bright. It's the perfect thing for this season. So we have whole milk ricotta. I am not a fan of cutting the fat out of things that were designed to have fat. I don't eat a ton of cheese, but if I'm going for the real deal. What do I mean by that? Full fat, the way it was intended. It usually is actually better for you in a lot of ways than when you start removing things. So I've got about a cup and a half of ricotta. And then I'm going to take the lime zester, or lemon zester rather. And we're going to zest some lemon right into it. So zesting means you're taking the outside. That's what you're getting. It's very, very, very fine. I'm using a microplane. That's what you want. Very, very fine. And I'm using about the zest of 1 whole lemon. For the amount of ricotta I have. Perfect. So you can see, I've got the zest of basically 1 lemon in here. And then you're using fresh juice. So you can juice this. I happen to juice some lemons beforehand. So I'm going to put a little bit of lemon juice into that. And I would say it's about 1.5 teaspoons. And I'm just mixing that right in. Now, the one thing you might not be able to tell, or that you absolutely can't tell, is if a lemon is a little sweet or a little bit bitter. So what you're going to do is once you mix this, you're going to taste it. If it hits all the right notes, perfect. If it's a little bit tart, you can add a pinch of sea salt. I think it's just about right, so I'm going to leave it alone and I'm going to set that aside. My water is boiling for my pappardelle, and my butter and my garlic are doing beautifully. So I'm gonna just mix up garlic a little bit with the butter. I've effectively created a little brown butter. I'm gonna turn that off. My scoops are still gonna cook a little bit. So my pan's all ready for when I add my pasta. I also, as I mentioned, added a little bit of water in the back for the fresh peas. I'm gonna go ahead and put the fresh peas in. As I mentioned, they're only gonna take about 2 minutes. And we're gonna add the fresh pappardelle. That's only gonna take about 3 minutes. This is the key when you have fresh pasta. It just cooks in no time. Want to make sure you try and separate it out a little bit so that it doesn't get too stuck that's in there. And the difference between fresh pasta and dry pasta is so substantial. You can't get all types of pasta fresh. So I understand that's why you either kind of need to make some of it or you're gonna buy pre-made. The pre-made stuff is just not nearly, it's not nearly as soft, it's not nearly, usually it's not as fresh in the sense that often it has ingredients that have been added in order to make it stable instead of refrigerated. And when you do that, often it kind of changes the makeup of the pasta. I know many of you have heard me talk about even the pasta we source here at FTC for our distributions. I source from Italy. And the reason is it has less yuck in the pasta. What do I mean by that? There's so many additives in our food these days that you don't really want. And they don't really make a point of telling you that, but you need to read the ingredient label. You need to look and see what they're adding to foods that you're purchasing that shouldn't or don't necessarily need to be there. So for this, fresh. Again, a couple of minutes in the bag. So we've got the peas. Those peas are just about done. No time whatsoever. That's the benefit of fresh peas. And by the way, even frozen peas, often frozen peas are fresher than fresh at times because frozen often gets done right at the plant, flash frozen. So a lot of times they're fresher than what a lot of times people can get at the store is. So it's kind of a misnomer that people think, oh, frozen's not as good. Frozen can in fact be as fresh as almost fresh. Because a lot of times fresh vegetables take days, if not weeks, to get from a farm to your table. And yet frozen is often flash frozen right at the farm or the plant. So it can be significantly better quality. All right, so our peas are done. So let's get those off. I have a little container, a little strainer that I'm going to strain them in. Now again, there's nothing in these peas. Just peas. So as you can see, fresh peas. I'm going to go ahead and pick out the ones that look like maybe they're just not as good. And by that, I mean they're not the bright green. But for presentation value only, these are super fresh. Put them there for a minute though. And then our pasta is cooking. It's just about done. I will tell you, once you make homemade pasta, you're like, why am I buying pasta? Oh, right, the time. However, the flavor of homemade pasta is extraordinary. So, as you can see, pappardelle is thicker noodles. They look like ribbons. It is, again, my favorite type of pasta. Maybe about 1 more minute on that pasta. And then again, what you're gonna see is this is such a simple and easy dish that it takes very little time. And then the side salad is just as easy. So you get this super light, right, fresh summer dish, even though it has pasta. No, I did not add any meat proteins to this tonight. You can, you certainly can add tofu, fish, or chicken. I eat vegetarian probably half the time. So this is one of those things that is vegetarian. I keep it vegetarian because I feel like between the pasta dish and the salad, it hits all the perfect notes for me and I don't need the more. But if you want that, you certainly should feel free to add it. All right, let's check the pasta. It needs just a hint more. I do not like overcooked pasta. So I want to make sure it's just a little bit over al dente. I don't want al dente for the pappardelle, but I also do not have any desire to have it be a little bit mushy. So about 1 more minute. Now again, we have our garlic scapes or our crushed garlic off to the side. What I want to do right now is you can either add a little bit more butter or a little bit more oil. That's going to be what coats your pasta. I'm using less than a teaspoon. I'm just going to lubricate what I already have there. Make sure it's a nice coating. I'm also going to take a little bit of pepper and a little bit of adobo. And I'm just going to sprinkle my pan. Now, if you don't love adobo or you don't love pepper, either don't use it or use a lot less. And by a lot less, I'm not using a lot, but don't use any or use very, very little. You can always add spice to a dish. You can't take it away. So you don't ever want to be heavy-handed with spices. You can always, always, always add them in. I'm just going to get my steaks and my little bit of extra butter. Stir. My pasta looks perfect. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to drain it. Now, feel free, as always, ask questions. Mary or Jim will let me know. I want to make sure everyone's following along. If I'm going too fast or if you have any questions, please ask. That's why we're here. All right, that's set right aside. The only other thing we're going to do right now is we're going to take our spinach. And we're going to do a little bit of a fine dice on some spinach because we're going to roll that in. Again, our garlic steaks and our butter aren't on any heat. I don't ever add greens to heat. I feel like it degrades the value. You get a lot of nutrition when you go with leafy greens. I don't want to take away from that. So I usually add my greens in order to be wilted, but I don't want them actually being wildly cooked because it takes away some of that nutrition. So I'm just cross-cutting. Again, all that means is I'm cutting one direction and then the other, so that I'm fine dicing. And then I kind of bring it all back together and cut it again to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't know about you, and this might just be a me thing, but I don't like things to be stringy when I'm eating it. So that's why I tend to like a finer dice on certain things. Okay, so here we are. Our pasta's done. I'm gonna go ahead and put that pasta right in my pan. I'm gonna move this over so I can show it to you. I'm gonna toss this. I'm just tossing this in the butter and garlic scapes that we made. might put in a little bit more butter for this amount of pasta. Not a ton, just a little. Well, seems to be coming together. Best way to tell? The best part of cooking is taste testing. Oh, that's nice. I think I'm good actually. I don't think I need more butter. Okay. So now we have our pasta, our pappardelle. We have our butter, a little bit of garlic scapes or a fresh garlic that you sauteed. We have a little bit of pepper and a little bit of adobo. We're going to add in those peas. I'm going to pick out the couple that are white, because they don't look funny when I plate it. Add in our peas. We're going to add in our fresh spinach. And this is when we're going to add in our grated, either Gruyère or whatever sharp cheese you have. You want something that has a little bit of bite to it, because it's going to offset the very light ricotta with lemon. So I'm adding a little bit of Gruyère that I shredded. We're just going to let that and mix it all up. And again, you're not trying to cook. Remember, you're not on any heat. You're not trying to cook the spinach. You're not trying to do anything. The heat is going to naturally semi-melt the Gruyère and melt the spinach. So what you have is this kind of fresh, very fresh look. Got the green and the white. It's just this very, very light, bright pasta dish. And very simple. Truly, good food doesn't have to be hard. So here we go. Now, that's back on the stove. And I'm going to bring over a plating dish. So, I mentioned that I sometimes like to use a microgreen for plating. Now again, this is visual. It's also super good for you. But I like to spread that around the edges. So when I plate, it has a visual appeal. Because here's the deal. We use our eyes before we ever taste anything. We use our nose and our eyes. If it doesn't look good, if it doesn't smell good, you're not going to want to eat it. So that visual appeal is very important. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead. Spoon up some of my pasta. Make sure I get some of those peas. So we've got some nice spinach. Some green peas. We're going to go ahead and drop a dollop in the middle of our lemon zested ricotta. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to zest or grate a little bit of fresh parm over the top. And then just for that visual appeal, we're going to drop a couple microgreens right on the top. And if you really want to get fancy, you add another lemon. You could even do a little bit of a lemon peel. Well, this one is not peeling for me, but you could literally do a little bit of a lemon peel. I wanted it to be a little bit more circular, but you could do a little bit of a lemon peel right on the top just for decoration. If that is not a fun summery plate, and if you could smell it, it's just amazing. So this is a super, super easy dish. And it doesn't have to be served super hot. So this is the main dish. And then just like that, we're going to be able to make the side salad. And you're like, wait, that fast? Yes, that fast. We're going to make the side salad. Now, I love arugula. So this is an arugula side salad. This is pre-washed. It's not opening easily for me. We're going to put this.
We got a wow on that presentation.
Yay! I love that. It's such a fun dish, and really, like I said, so easy, so simple, and it really is a wow. Like, and it creates a wow with the scent presentation. So we'll put the wow right there, and then I'm going to show you just how easy it is to also give yourself, again, such a light, bright, easy side salad. Do a little bit of arugula. You're going to take a little bit of olive oil. Drizzle that nicely over. Then you're going to take a little bit of that lemon juice. And you could just take literally a slice of lemon. Go ahead and give yourself a slice on the side just for a visual appeal. Oops, let's just fall out. I'm going to do a little bit of pepper. So we've got olive oil, extra virgin, of course, a little bit of pepper. We're doing a touch of pink Himalayan sea salt. You have your lemon that we poured on. We're going to go ahead and put a lemon right on top. And as I mentioned in the recipe, some shaved Parmesan. I think the shaved Parmesan, just presentation wise, offers you a lot more. You can certainly use grated, but there you go. In almost no time, you have a super light, bright, very beautiful, tasty dish and side salad that you can serve to anyone. You can serve, animal proteins or tofu on the side if you'd like. But this is truly a wow dish during the summer. Takes very little time, not very expensive, and truly a flavor bomb. So that is it for us here. I'm at the Family Table Collaborative Kitchen. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank the Hyannis Public Library for hosting us every month. I hope you join us back here next month for another episode of Cooking Live with me, Jeni Wheeler. I can't wait to hear from you. I can't wait to see you next month. I hope you are enjoying what all of a sudden just became summer. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.